Ryan Janer. Welcome, everybody. Evolving with Corey Castle. This is your first time joining me. Welcome. Welcome to the journey. And welcome to the journey, Ryan, man. I like the fact that you get the opportunity to be pleasantly surprised or very much disappointed in what this experience is. And at the end, I'll ask for a little report card on whether you're surprised.
I'll let you know. I'll be very honest with you.
Yeah, cool.
I got nothing to lose.
So it's not. I know you do you probably do tons of people's podcasts. I myself have done lots and lots of people's podcasts. You know, for being a wrestler for so long, people wind up asking me a lot of the same questions, and I'm like, okay, I've already answered this question on this and this and this podcast, so I wanted to make sure that my podcast wasn't like anything. I wanted to do this as like something I would want to listen to if I were listening to it, because I listen to tons of podcasts myself.
Yeah.
So that being said, what are the most like overly asked questions you get?
I mean, a lot of the time, if anybody asks me anything, the first thing is like, how long does it take you to grow that fucking mustache? That's like the first thing, and it's
base. That's base.
But then it also goes back because like the podcast that I have, there will be people that are like, hey, is all that shit you said about your dad, or is all that stuff that you talked about, like, did that actually happen? It's like, yeah, man. It's like, I don't really lie a lot on the podcast, and like the gross things that I've done, I think what makes it so funny is that they're so genuine and stupid. And as self-deprecating or as self-endangering or as self-incriminating as they are, they're funny because of that fact. There's no real, not trying to pull punches on anybody, because people can see through phony. Mm-hmm. So if you don't do that, it's another thing. And a lot of other people ask me too, is like how long I've been doing stand-up is like a thing a lot. And how did I meet this person or that person, or like what was the worst show, what was the best show? So like those are, it's pretty like. And I get it. I get being inquisitive about that. I get being inquisitive about, like, if you don't do a certain thing, you're asking about what that.
I lost you. I can't hear you now. I can't hear you.
Of fucking course you don't. Doesn't matter.
I hear you now. Yeah. Everything's fine.
Who gives a shit what I said? Who cares? Because, fucking Elon Musk is somewhere blowing him.
Lost you again.
Can you hear me?
I can. The last thing I heard you say was something about Elon Musk blowing himself or something. And I lost you again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Lost you again. Oh boy. All right. So Ryan's having some issues with his audio, and I apologize. Here we are, 4 minutes and 20 seconds into the conversation. So I think he's pretty angry at this point. And that's fine. That's fine too. People get a little angry. I mean, these times are tough, and I accept it. I accept that sometimes people can get impatient, and while he's dealing with his issues, just want to encourage anybody who's joining me for the first time. If this is the first time you're listening to Evolving with Corey Castle, check out the other 222 episodes that I've got on all the all the podcasting apps. Check out the archives on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Corey Castle, one word, CORYKASTLE. And man, I really appreciate the feedback that you guys have been giving me. I really appreciate the comments, and I'm super, super stoked to continue to do this for you guys every day. And I think I might have.
Yo.
Yes.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can totally hear you. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, this is the last Zoom or anything like that I'm ever going to do. So you ask me whatever you want, because I'm never doing one of these ever again. I'm never doing one ever again. Ever again. I've had enough.
Okay.
I broke 3 things in my house, smacking my microphone across the fucking room.
I watched that.
Yeah. So I'm fucking done with it. I'm fucking done. So you ask me whatever you want to ask. And I don't remember where I left off because I was still fucking blindly angry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So,
Christ.
what is your like process normally that gets you back to regular cruising speed when you get like hot like that?
You know, I really don't know. I think it's like when you're like mad all the time, you don't really think of like another way to be. All you know is that like you got to conduct yourself in public. And I think that's like a different thing. Like I'm not around anybody right now. So no one saw it. Like, I mean, they know that it happened, but no one was here. Like no one got hurt. And I'm in my head just, it doesn't really fucking matter what I do. But really, I try to like think about like how people are perceiving me, because nobody wants to be seen as like a crazy guy. Like unless they're like going out of their way to be like a fucking weirdo about it. But like most people don't want to be seen as a crazy, unstable or unhinged individual. So really trying to reel yourself back and understand that like, you know, explosive personality disorders that maybe you have should be taken down a peg, especially when you're around. I try to picture myself being surrounded by children. Like that's what I try. Like what would look like if I was losing my mind at like a park or at like a fucking Toys R Us, just getting pissed off, like throwing a temper tantrum. And that's one thing I gotta work with. I have I'm a short guy. I have a short temper. It's as cliche as that sounds, you know.
Is it with like everything or is it always happen? Does that always happen?
I mean, it's more, honestly, to tell you, it is with technology.
Right.
It harkens back to like things that just should fucking work. It blows my mind because we live in the future. We live in 2021. We're in the future. Things shouldn't have to be so especially with things where it's just like, oh, it's a microphone. Plug that in. Does it work? Of course it does. Why wouldn't it? It's a microphone. That just come on. Oh no.
It's its purpose.
It's its purpose.
Yeah.
You fucking talk. Oh wait, it doesn't work and nothing's wrong with it, but it's just having a weird. No. You fucking find a way to get some nanobot fucking technology to come up through the goddamn wire and make it fucking work. I'm tired of sitting here looking like a fucking dickhead, choking on my own ass, fucking trying to talk to somebody and then throwing it across the room like I'm a fucking toddler. That fucking shit is beyond me. It's all over me. I've had it.
I mean, I'm this way too, where I somehow care about like what people think of me. I get in my head about like what people are going to think. Like, of course, I got in the business of look at me. Yeah. I got in the business of listen to me. My words are more important than what you rhetorical conversations between me and a room full of empty strangers. Sure. But like where's that come from? Like what damaged you to cause that?
I don't fucking know. I mean, I always grew up like, I loved movies growing up a lot. And I always wanted to be not like, I think the first thing I always wanted to be was a bad guy in a movie. Like that's the first thing I ever remember thinking is like, that would be the best thing if I could ever be like a bad guy in a movie. And not just a bad guy. You don't even need to be the main character. You just need to be like somebody so like you. I mean, you could have 5 minutes full of like in a movie, but people would be like, oh man, remember that one guy doing that one thing who was fucking out of his mind? And that'll stick with people. I mean, the one thing I really wanted to be when I was a kid was Tom Berenger from Platoon. I wanted to be Sergeant Barnes, and not so much in the weird, just deranged way, but like I wanted a gnarly face scar a lot, just because it just looked so cool and you looked so menacing and badass, and it didn't matter what you did. Like you just could walk around. Like if I had an awesome face scar, I wouldn't even get a job. I would just stand around all the time giving people weird advice in bars, and everyone would believe you because you have a wild ass face scar. That's like, you always trust somebody who looks so grizzled all the time. Like I would just stand out front of a Walgreens and people go in there and they're like, oh man, I can't wait to buy those Triscuits. And I'm like, don't buy those Triscuits. I'm telling you right now, you don't want to buy those snacks.
There's this stuff. They used it like for Joker's scars in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And it makes it look like scar. It's called rigid collodion.
Rigid
collodion is the name of the stuff. Get some of that and see what it feels like. Let's just use that as an experiment to see if that'll make your life feel more fulfilled.
Sure. I mean, there was a point I remember I think it was like 1993. Last Action Hero had come out, and I was a huge fan of Benedict. Just the villain. I was like, man, this guy is so fucking badass.
Because he's guy? No, Benedict was
he was the guy with the glass eye. He was the guy.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember being like, this is a great. I was also a huge fan of like Hans Gruber as well. Like just a slick, because I'm not well spoken, I'm not slick, I'm not debonair. But like when I saw those guys, I'm like, not only are they fucking terrifying, they're just like, they could walk anywhere and be like, oh, here's your table. Like, oh, like you just get anything you want. And I remember when I was a kid, me and my younger brother were like, we were fucking stupid and we were sword fighting with sharpened dowel rods because we're fucking dumb. And my younger brother lunged forward and he like slashed underneath this eye socket. And he cut underneath my eyelid and I had to get stitches. And I remember being in the hospital and getting like, Novocaine was administered and they're stitching on my eye. And I remember the doctor being like, Brian, you're a very lucky kid, because if that had been a millimeter up, it would have hit the bottom of your eyeball. And there would have been no way we would have been able to save your eye. We would have had to take in your eye. And I remember being so pissed off at my younger brother for not being a millimeter higher. I wanted an eye patch and like a glass eye. I wanted it so bad. I was like, oh fuck. It'd be one thing to like do it to yourself. That's weird. And I don't want to have anything to do with that. But if it was an accident and it was cool and I could be like the fucking 8th grader with an eye patch and it was like, who's that guy? I'm like, don't even talk about it. Like that would be the fucking coolest thing in the world.
The funny thing that you said there was it was 1993. In 1993, I had to wear an eye patch. I wore an eye patch in school, and I hated it. I hated it so much, and I got made fun of for it. And was
it because you had lazy eye or pink eye?
Lazy eye.
Okay. See, lazy eye isn't cool because that just means you have a problem. If I was in school and they're like, oh, what are you? Do you have a lazy eye? And I picked up my fucking eye and there was an empty socket there. Do you know how many people I would put to fucking sleep with that? That is fucking badass. That's like a way different thing. Like lazy eye sucks because I had lazy eye once at one point. But like the eye patch wasn't cool because everyone's like, what do you got? Lazy eye? Look at this lazy eye fuck. And you're like, I feel like shit.
It looked like it looked like a Band-Aid. Like it was like nude colored.
Yeah. It was bad.
I just like, why didn't I get like the black one with the string? How come they didn't hook me up?
They didn't. They never do. Because they don't want you to be like, oh, impairments like that are neat. It's like, no, they're not. They're not neat.
To look like a pirate is all.
No. All I wanted to look like a cool bandito. Why is that so bad? I got to go to school. I got to deal with fucking assholes my own age who are ripping me apart when I get off the bus. No thanks.
Jean-Pierre Lafitte.
Yeah. No thanks. I just want to look great. Going into school looking great. That's all I wanted.
So you have a brother. Did you have both your parents?
So My mom, my mom's been married 4 times, which is great. My mom's first marriage, she had my older brother and half sister, and my mom's second marriage was me and my younger brother, and then the next 2 there was no children. So I have 3 siblings, but my younger brother and I are from the same father.
Mhm.
And my mom and dad got divorced when I was 5, or like 4.5 or 5, one of those.
Okay.
So that was like 1989, I think.
Did you?
Around that.
How old are you? We're the same age.
I'm 36.
Yeah, I just turned 37.
Oh, happy
So-
birthday, man.
in December. So I mean, it's
Oh well, either
it's
way,
not that long, not that short ago, but not that long ago. You get it.
I got it. It's all the fucking same. Once you reach the mid 30s, it doesn't fucking matter anymore. I don't know. I was waiting. People told me that the 30s were going to be the best decade of my life. I'm like, when the fuck does that kick in? When do I get these benefits that everyone's fucking talking about? I still haven't gotten them.
I don't think it exists in what the numbers are. I think it exists in your brain.
Yeah,
if you're like,
sure.
wow, this is the favorite version of me I've ever been, and I just so happen to be in my 30s,
Yeah.
or I just so happen to be in my 20s or 40s or whatever age bracket you find yourself in. That would be what is the best.
I mean, I'm trying to think of like the last, like my whole, from 20 to 29. I think I had maybe like 2 or 3 pretty good years out of that, but it wasn't the whole decade. It was like maybe 2 or 3 pretty good years out of that. And like, as far as my 30s have gone, I'll get like pretty good months out of every year, but never like a full year. You get like collectively, like I'd say 3 weeks out of your 30s that are pretty badass, I would say, especially going into 36.
What are your best parts though? Like what's going on when you say like that's the best months? What are the things going on?
The best month, it'll come like down to like a pretty good week, like especially before the fucking lockdown and the fucking pandemic and shit like that. I guess like doing a weekend at a club was pretty great, and then like hooking up with a chick that same weekend was pretty great, and then like not overdrawing your bank account is pretty great. I think that would be a pretty good weekend. It's like just not going into the red too hard, like figuring stuff out like that is pretty great. But then there's like one week you find out that you overdrew your account by $600. You've got the clap and you aren't getting booked anywhere. It's like a motherfucker like that. Sometimes you can't really predict how that's going to happen all the time. You can just try and get around it. Sometimes it doesn't always happen that way.
Well, when you were growing up, did you grow up in any religion? Was there any structure on like God or anything in your life?
I would say that my grandmother on my mom's side, she was very devout Christian, but she wasn't oppressive with it in any way. There was never like, you need to go to church, you need to do this, you need to do that. I never got that from her ever, and she never pushed it on anybody else. I would say as far as like my dad, if you were like, hey, Tom, what are you? You'd be like, I don't know. I guess Protestant, maybe. I don't know. He wouldn't know. You just like, God's real, probably. I don't know. But like, he would just be like, hey, sure, maybe. I don't know, Jesus and stuff. Sure. But my mom, I would say that we never went to church.
Mm-hmm.
Like we never really I think I went to church maybe like 3 times. And the only reason I did was because my older brother and sister would go every Wednesday for like Bible study, but it ended up being like them just playing basketball in a gymnasium. Like I wanted to do that. I'm like, oh, that seems like a fun thing to do. So, but other than that, I mean, like we were as religious as like what my mom thought should be. Like we would say grace at like Christmas Eve dinner, not because we really believed it, just because like that's what you do. You say grace, and it doesn't.
That same. My grandma was super Catholic, and she'd be like, at Thanksgiving, holidays, and things. She'd be like, "Oh, whose turn is it to say grace? Justin, it's your turn." And then my brother would do. So I know exactly what you're talking about. It's not, but then like once she was gone, we just didn't do it anymore.
Yeah, I will say the other thing that I would never say my mom. My mom isn't like religious, but like she believes. like my mom, I'm pretty sure my mom, if you're like, hey, Sue, do you believe in angels? She'd be like, oh God, yeah. Oh my God, yes. Angels, definitely. But like you would never catch her in church, and I guarantee she wouldn't be able to sing a hymn for the life of her, and I guarantee she has no idea what Bible passages even refer to them. She also loves, and year round they're in my parents' house, she loves the nativity, not so much of like even the religious aspect of it. She loves the fact that like it's the greatest underdog story ever.
It's story. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
fully
she just loves it. She's like, oh, wait, these two people who had nothing then give birth to like the king? That's so amazing. I love that. I love it. And angels were there. I love that. Like she loves that shit. And it's not so much that it has anything to do with religion as much as it has to do being literally the greatest story ever told. I don't think it has anything to do with like any barring like religion or anything like that.
Where have you arrived on it, and when did you get there?
Where have I arrived on religion?
On just
Or
spirituality or whatever?
Oh no, I mean, let's see. I never, like, even as a kid, I remember like I never feared God.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember like never being like, oh man, God, if I don't do this, God will come down, he'll punish me. Like I was never like afraid of God. And I knew kids who were. Like I knew kids who went to church. I lived in my town. There were Catholics and Christians and Baptists and Lutherans. Like everyone practiced some sort of religion, but we didn't. And I never remember thinking, like I think I was like in middle school where like I acknowledged that there might be a God. And and I'm not saying I was like agnostic. I was like, yeah, there might be a God, but he's not mine. He might be maybe he is your God, but whatever God that is, he doesn't want anything to do with me. I'm not involved in whatever he's doing. I don't pay him any attention. I don't pay him any praise. I don't really do anything in his name, and I don't care. And that was another thing too, is trying to explain that weird, almost nihilistic ideology to kids who are like,
well, it's just like, there's no consequence to, it's like, I get it. And like trying to, because of the, it's like, cognitive dissonance. Like that's like people are so beat upon the head with what their parents taught them, and what
of course
their parents taught them, and it's just,
of course,
it's a tough cycle to break.
Yeah, I think it was also where that, I don't even know how to explain it. It wasn't until I was in high school where like I really I didn't care about the idea of heaven at all. But I thought the idea of hell was cool. Like I thought like hell, I was like, hell seems pretty crazy. Like even if you get there, like I was like, yeah, I mean, if everything I've seen from movies and like, you know, Renaissance art and all this other shit, if that is real, if that's like a real thing, that seems pretty fucking wild. Like I think even if I got sent there and like I was in terrible roiling pain and I felt so bad, I think for like 1 second I'd be like, whoa, what? Like what is this about? This is pretty neat.
Am I right?
Like what is this?
But like, don't you think when you think about it now, and you're like, okay, my physical body, my physical human body would feel pain. If I'm in hell, I'm not a physical body anymore. Yeah. The physical pain isn't a thing.
I also think that like why? I mean, again, if hell exists, if we're playing, you know, not to make a pun, devil's advocate here. If
hypotheticals.
Yeah. If hell exists, I think that in Renaissance times, people were given that idea of hell because that's what they knew would be the worst thing in the world.
Right.
Now we're here in the future. Hell wouldn't be being eaten by a big weird monster. Hell wouldn't be boiled in a pot. Hell would be that microphone that doesn't work all the fucking time. It would be monotonous fucking bullshit like that forever. You know what hell is? Hell is having a remote control where no batteries work. That's what it is, especially in 2021. You can't do anything. You can't go anywhere. Hell in 2021 is going to hell, and there's no Wi-Fi. And if there is Wi-Fi, it isn't very fucking good, and you got to go all over the fucking place. It's terrible. That's what the hell would be. And I don't think when you talk to somebody who's like in, you know, their 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, and they're like, oh man, hellfire and brimstone's like, I don't know if that's how it's going to be, man. I also don't believe hell is hot. I believe hell is very cold and shitty. I believe when you get there, you're wet and you're cold and you can't do anything. I think hell is like 2 wet socks in a very cold supermarket that you're standing in line for. And there's somebody up front paying in change. Yep. That's what hell is.
Thin sneakers and you stepped in a puddle.
Yeah, that's what hell is. It's just like, motherfuck. Minor inconveniences, but so many of them. That's what hell is. So many minor inconveniences. That's what I believe hell is now. In the Renaissance era, it was being eaten by a dragon. Now it's like, you know, tying your shoes and the shoelace snaps and you fall face first on the pavement and everyone laughs at you. It's like, that's what hell is now. It's stepping in dog shit. You know what hell is? This is hell. You hooking up with a chick and then she takes your pants down and you realize you farted too hard earlier in the day and there's a big shit stain in your pants and you ruin everything. That's hell. That's the new hell.
I had a moment. I think I wear contacts. I wear like thick glasses, you know, lazy eye. Like I said, 1993, lazy eye. I was like going to take a piss late at night. And like, I walked through like a dark room in the hallway and I stepped in, I had like no shoes or socks on and I stepped in dog shit that was on the floor and it like Play-Doh Fun Factory'd up through my toes.
Through the toes, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, this is probably what hell is. Stepping in dog poop in your bare feet all the time.
I mean, if I had to equate, and again, having never been to hell, I would say if I had to equate hell to pain, in 2016, I dislocated my knee 3 times in a 12-hour period. And that was probably the most physical pain I've ever felt in my entire life. And I remember thinking like, if hell comes down to like being physically, you know, tortured or physical like aspect of it, like that, maybe that's what hell is, maybe. Mm-hmm. But then again, I've gotten like a rock stuck under my eyelid once. And that was like, I remember thinking like, this is the closest thing to hell I'll ever experience.
How did you go about doing that?
Getting a rock under my eyelid. Yeah. I was riding I was riding a bike and we built a ramp to like ramp off of like this, behind my house where I grew up, there was this big gravel parking lot and we would just build ramps and like ramp off them. And being a very, I guess I wouldn't say I was good. I was never good at like extreme sports. I was never good at like skateboarding. I was never good at rollerblading and I was never good at like BMX, but I would just try all the tricks, like thinking like, hey, I can figure this out. And I can't. I never would. And I tried doing like a tail whip, like off this ramp that wasn't high enough to do a tail whip. Like, and there was none of speed to do any of that shit. But like, you see like Dave Mira doing it. You're like, I could probably fucking do that. I could definitely.
They make it look so easy.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I be able to do that? That's all I got to do is go a certain speed. Yeah, no problem. I can do that. And I fucking tried, but the front wheel came down and I fell like face first into this gravel. And I remember like getting cut on my face and there was like, I couldn't blink and I was like, what the fuck? And I felt like there was something underneath there. And I like ran home and like I was peeling my eyelid down and my mom was like scooping with like a small little like swab to get it out. And that was another thing where like, we went to the emergency room afterwards and the doctor was like, yeah, you're lucky you didn't lose your eye, man. Like, I was like, God. Damn it. This close again. Fucking bullshit.
Do you think, I mean, if I'm talking, I do want to get into talking about wrestling, of course, because
of course. Yeah.
Because I mean, this isn't a wrestling podcast, but I know it's unavoidable considering I'm a wrestler and a lot of people I have on the show are comics who are really big fans of wrestling, or wrestlers.
I've dabbled in both. It's pretty great. Fucking awesome.
So, the part of it I was gonna talk about, because we're still on the whole heaven hell stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you have you lost anybody? Like, have you lost friends or anything?
I mean, I was telling you, because you were talking about how this was episode 223, and you're like, hey, maybe this will be a significant day. I was like, oh, it reminds me, like when I was in high school, 2 of my friends died in a car accident on this day. And this month last year was when my dad died. He died at the end of the month last year in this month.
Wow.
So it's like,
sorry to hear that.
Oh no! I mean, it's
a big loss. I'm not only saying it because, like, when we go into the things that are like your pet peeves, what's a pet peeve to me is like obligatory things, like saying, sorry for your loss, or saying like happy birthday when it's your birthday because Facebook told you it's your birthday.
Of course.
Like, I don't want to feel like I'm just glad-handedly going through shit you gotta do. Man.
I think why people do that, especially with like, I'm sorry. I think it's because people don't know what to say to it. I think that I don't think they're being disingenuous when they're saying, I'm sorry for your loss. I think they're just being like, I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about him. All I do know is whatever happened. Like, you're like, hey, I'm just letting you know, hey, how you doing? My name's Ryan. My dad died. What do you say? Fuck. I'm sorry. Like, you don't know what the fuck to say.
I have no idea what your relationship actually was like with your dad, but I know if I put myself into your shoes, I wouldn't know how to feel. So I must feel sorry that you're going through that loss instead of me.
Of course. Right. And that's, I understand the idea of empathy and sympathy. And I would never be like, oh, what a fucking hollow goddamn gesture. I would never be like that. I think that would be a wrong thing to do. But as far as losing people and, like early, like July 30th, I had to have my cat put to sleep, and I had my cat for like since 2015, and that was a real huge bummer. Death is, I think, over time you just become very. I mean, again, when you're like a angry guy and you're mad about everything all the time, you build up a wall to like just compartmentalize everything enough where you'll be okay. Like, I always am convinced that no matter what happens, I'm always going to be okay. And the other thing is that I do is like that I know is very detrimental and very weird, and I don't think a lot of people do it. But like, when I start becoming close with somebody, especially like a significant other or anything like that, I immediately try and prepare myself for when they're going to die. Like, I prepare myself for like, what will I say? How will I handle it? Because I'm getting attached to this person. I'm putting feeling out for this person. I know at some point in time, it'll go away, either physically or emotionally. And now I have to like really, just like you build these like little, like, oh, this is how I'll deal with it this day. And this is how this is how I would deal with it like this day. And this is what I would say if they did die.
Do you find that's helpful?
No, I find that wildly detrimental.
living like so far in the future, like instead of just like dude, today's great. I have so many things to be thankful for in this day, in this moment. Why worry about how I'm going to cope when some hypothetical thing does or doesn't happen?
Yeah, I think that's again, I think people, when you're like conditioned to like think about like, especially like at an early age, when people talk to you like, oh, you always got to think about the future, man. Like, live in it now, but like prepare, hope for the best, but expect the worst. And it's always when you're just like, well, I'm weathering a storm that in your head, is going to happen. It's kind of like, preparing for like when Yellowstone erupts. Like, who the fuck knows when that's going to happen? But we have so much scientific data adding up that it will happen. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And not only that, when it does, it's going to be a fucking motherfucker that's going to wipe out It could kill every living thing on the planet. Is it going to happen tomorrow? We don't know. Is it going to happen a week from now? We don't know. But we do know that it is going to happen. And that is what the process of somebody who thinks like that. I don't know if I'm the only one who does that. I'm pretty sure somebody and somewhere they do the same thing and they're like, oh, I know exactly what that guy's talking about. But do I think it is beneficial? Not really. Not at all. But I can't stop myself from doing it. It's a weird compulsion thing. And it's always been that way. And if it's always been that way, you find a way to just exist with it. You find a way to just live with that fact. And it gets to a point where it's not a character flaw anymore. It becomes a personality trait. It's not like, oh, that's something you can work on. It's like, no, that's just who I am now. Like, that's just so ingrained into the way that I process things and work with things. It's 50-50. Man.
I think that winds up being like a learned behavior that you can probably program yourself out of.
And I'm not saying you're wrong.
Right.
I think what happens is you either take time to unlearn that behavior, but you also, it's the reason why I really liked doing stand-up was because you got instant results. Mm-hmm. Like you could go on stage and you could try a joke and instantly whether or not that joke is good. Right. You want it now. Like you want it now. Like if someone's like, hey man, you got to unlearn that behavior. I'm like, is there anything I can just do? Like, can I just be hypnotized maybe and just like have it done now? Cause I'm done. I don't want to learn anything. I just want it to be done. I
think you can acknowledge it. Like if that thought comes in and say like, okay, well, I've needed this thought, this way of thinking has gotten me so far. Thanks for being here. Continue on. I have other things I got to do.
Yeah. Like, I mean, again, that is something that I've tried to do, but it's like having a splinter that you can't remove. It's like every now and again or like having like a shitty knee. Like, it's there. It doesn't hurt all the time. It's not going to give you so many things. You'll be able to go about your day, but every now and again, it'll remind you that at any point in time, it could give out. Mm-hmm. It'll remind you again. It's like at any point in time, man, like I'm just going to show up and there's nothing you can do about it. Mm-hmm. And that in a way takes its toll to a point where like, you just expect that, like you try to ignore it as best as you can, but you always know it's there. It's like, I don't know. It's like having a haunted house that you just deal with. Like you never move out of the house, no matter how violent the poltergeist might get. And it'll never kill you because it needs you. It needs you there. It can't exist without you, but it'll give you as much shit as it can without destroying you. It's a very weird relationship to have with a type of thought process like that. And again, I would never say it works. Mm-hmm. I will say that I've worked with it and I've just dealt with it.
Well, in asking you about that, like losing people thing, like your relationship with loss makes you start thinking about what you think might have happened to your loved ones when they've passed. What do you imagine? What do you imagine like where your friends are now and your dad is now?
I mean, where Tom, my dad is, I don't know what happens when you die. But I do believe that there's gotta be something more than here. There's too much evidence to prove that there isn't nothing beyond existence. There's too much evidence proving that there is. And if I know my dad, I don't think he's like, I don't think when you die, you go back to your prime. I don't think you die. That would be too good. That people would die, like go out of the way to die. I'd be like, yeah, where am I going? Back to the best version of me? Fuck yeah, dude. Like I'm 68. Put me in a fucking car and push me off a fucking bridge. But I think like, where my dad is, I would want to believe that he is at a really, 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 really nice beef and beer and drinks are moderately priced. and he can afford it. Like that would be a version of like, not hell, not heaven, just all right.
Something.
Yeah, that'll be.
Did you ever see the movie Defending Your Life? It's like Albert Brooks. Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep. It's from like 1990, probably 1990. Look up that movie. You should see it.
I'll check it out.
It's like the guy dies and he goes to this like purgatory where like he goes into like a courtroom where he's got like a public defender who's like helping him through like trials on whether he should go to heaven or hell. And it's like there's playing back moments in his life where like he was kind of a piece of shit, but then they're playing back moments in his life where he was kind of good. And then like they're like reviewing. It's neat. It's a neat concept. Yeah, and like when you were saying you've seen stuff in movies that was like hell and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, I saw things like Defending Your Life or like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Exactly.
Or like all that stuff. It was like hell and heaven and all that stuff is just based off of what our picture of it is what we saw in movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like my physical body, me as me, shows up at another place. I don't really think that's a thing because I'm not going to look like this. I don't think I'm going to look like this. Who's going to be looking at me?
Exactly.
You know? So
that was another thing too, is like one thing I've always like worried about, like, again, I don't know. Again, I don't know if heaven or hell exists. I don't know which way I'm going to go if it does. But what I remember a buddy of mine telling me is that I think it was his like grandmother told him that like when you die and you're forgiven or like accept Christ or whatever, and you get to heaven, you become like the best physical version of yourself. Like that's what you become. You become like the best, no matter what age it was, like you become like this, like very, able-bodied version of yourself. And I was like, man, wouldn't that kind of sucks though. Right? He's like, why? I was like, I've seen pictures of my grandmother when she was younger and she was kind of a babe. And there's nothing worse than getting to heaven and like being around a bunch of hot people that you're kind of weirdly related to. That would suck shit.
I never thought of it that way.
That would suck complete shit. There would be nothing worse than getting to heaven and be like talking to all these people who are so pumped you're there. And like, just so like, oh my God, give me a hug. And you're pressed up against your grandmother's fucking pert C cups from 1926. That's no good. Nobody wants that. Having a pool party with grandma and she's wearing a fucking two-piece and you're like, God damn, what's up, Nana? I didn't know that was happening. What's this about? That's what I mean. I don't think that's just the best way to go. That would piss me off.
We're currently me and one of my friends are currently writing like a script for this film where at some point my character is like through the magic of time travel somehow comes back to life. But in the afterlife, he found a woman who he was like into in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And then his friend is like, okay, cool, I'll bring her back too. And he's like, oh no, I don't want her in the living. Like in the living, she was old and gross and she smelled weird.
Yeah.
But in the afterlife, she was fine.
Yeah, she was hot. And it's, I mean, that would be, there's nothing worse than like, and again, I never met my grandmother when she was like 26 years old. I just saw a picture. I'm like, wow, what a great looking lady. But I also know that my
grandmas when they were 26 years.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, but I also do know that my grandmother, she had 8 kids from like 5 different partners. So I'm like, all right, grandma kind of gets around and she's hot.
She knows what she's working with.
She knows what she's doing right here. I seen that Great Depression badonk. I see what's going on here. I think am I an idiot? No, get out of here.
Maybe that's why they called it the Great Depression, because of that Dunk. I was always confused. Why was it called great if you were so sad?
It's. I mean, that would be another thing too. Is like, I think it would be really funny if there was like a heaven. You get up there and you just find out like they painted all these portraits of Jesus being so, just beautiful, like a beautiful being, and then you get there and he's just like, he's not like a weird he's just like the ugliest person ever. Like, that would be so funny. You just find out that Jesus has a lazy eye and no one talks about it. It's like, just don't fucking talk about it.
Right? He's never looking directly at you.
Yeah, he's always just like, hey, what's up? Yo, welcome to heaven. It's pretty great here. Oh, there you are. Sorry. So like, that would be fucking, it's like, what's wrong? Or Jesus has a weird lisp. He always, or also would be funny if Jesus said his R's like W. Mm-hmm. He's like, welcome. It's willy hot up here, but we really have a good time. So it's like, I don't know if I should take Jesus seriously. I don't know if I can.
What if he was like really not fun to hang around with?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jesus is a buzzkill. Like, I'm pretty sure like
you can't. He's got to one up you and stuff. Like,
oh yeah, total dick.
You got to he's got to hear your stories and go, oh, you think that's great? And then
and then again, it's like, how do you compete with that?
Right.
Someone's like, hey, it's like, what did you say? So anyway, it's like the first time I landed a kickflip. It was pretty fucking crazy. Like, whoa, kickflip, that's crazy. So there I was healing the blind, right? What? And then all of a sudden, like, he's like, I can see. And I'm like, yo, dude, here's this. And like, I die, right? I die. Weird. Come back from the dead. I'm walking on water. Fucking amazing. I mean, yeah, maybe like, sure, I didn't do a kickflip. I'm not taking it away from you, dude. You did a kickflip. That's great. But I mean, it ain't no go walking on water. I don't know. Whoa. I don't know. I'm sorry.
So what was your relationship like with pro wrestling as a kid? When did you decide? When did you get hooked? What hooked you?
What hooked me? I think
we're the same age. So it's probably right around the same stuff.
So I had always grown up. I mean, I'd always known about pro wrestling. I don't think but again, I was coming into it like, late 80s, where like gimmicks were like catching on like fire, like, and I always thought Ted DiBiase was awesome. Cause like, I don't know what it was. And like, looking back on it, my mom never really ever explained it. Cause I did once ask her and she couldn't give me an explanation. And it was like, I never knew why I had an affinity for heels. I always loved heels in wrestling.
Because of Benedict.
I think it was even before that. Like, I remember when I was a kid, like my younger brother and my mom would buy, for Christmas, she would buy us like GI Joes. But Kyle, my younger brother, would always get GI Joe, and I would get Cobra. Like, I always got the bad guy out of everything she ever bought for us. And I asked her once, I was like, why did I always get Cobra? And she's like, I don't know. I just, you did. So
Shredder was a cooler toy
than a cooler fucking thing. It just looked cooler. And and I'm not saying that the Turtles aren't awesome. I also am going to tell you that Bebop and Rocksteady objectively look cooler. They're just cooler looking toys. So
what if you got to heaven and Jesus talked like Bebop or Rocksteady?
Oh, I'd be fucking pumped. I'd be like, "What? That's awesome."
Hey, both.
It's like, man, Jesus sounds pretty fucking weird. He's like, was he made by Playmates Toys? Who did this? But I think it was let's see. So 1991 or 2, I remember I was like, USA channel 28, where I grew up, would play like Monday Night Raw, and I would always watch it. And I remember just being obsessed with The Undertaker. And that was another thing too, is like, I love The Undertaker because he was just creepy, but you could never tell whether or not he was like a good guy or a bad guy. You just knew he was like, he showed the fuck up.
Business, a tweener.
Yeah, he's a tweener. And it's like, he probably had the biggest tweener you've ever seen, dude. He's the biggest, he's the longest running tweener I've ever seen in my life.
He really hangs tween.
Yeah, he's a girthy tween, dude. He's a big veiny tweener, dude. He's fucking out of his mind. But I remember it wasn't until, let's see, the Attitude Era showed up. And I was like, I mean, much like I was obsessed with Stone Cold Steve Austin because I like loved this idea of the anti-hero. And like even like Austin, kind of like a tweener. Like you didn't know whether he was a bad guy or a good guy. He was like the bad guy to the boss because like fuck the man, but he was also like an everyman because he was like, hey, he's just fighting for the American way. And what's the American way? Giving the finger and drinking beer and beating up your boss. That is the that's the American dream.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's just like walking out and just being like, just going up like, fuck, that's awesome. That's fucking awesome. So that in turn, then I remember I would watch, but I was like, there were some gimmicks that I never understood. Like I never got like the genius. Like I never got the genius. I was like, why? He's just a smart guy. I'm like, that's fucking stupid as shit. I was like, what is he? He's just a guy who dresses up like he just graduated college. Fuck that guy. He sucks.
I'm gonna tell you a funny story about that guy.
Oh yeah.
So had him. We have a wrestling podcast. Me and my friends called Wrestle Rock, and awesome. I met Lanny down in Florida, and we exchanged numbers. And I was like, "Hey, call into my podcast. Call into my podcast this day." And I told him it was like a Friday. He called in, and he was like out. He wasn't even at home. He was like, there was all these sounds and everything, and it sucked. And on top of that, he like didn't want to answer our questions, and he was like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about that." He would just kept saying he didn't want to talk about certain things, and then he was like, "Oh, we're gonna have to do this some other time, you guys. You hear that ambulance? I gotta go." And then he hung up the phone on us, and then we just made fun of him for like 45 minutes to an hour. We're just making fun of him because we're like, because hearing that ambulance, he was like, what is he going to save somebody?
Yeah,
like,
what is he doing?
We were calling him Vigilante Poffo.
That's pretty great. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, Vigilante Poffo. One of the best episodes of the show.
I just was always confused. And like, there were also like personas that like, I was like, I never I got it, but I didn't. I was like, the Goon was also like another persona. I'm like, all right, so this guy just doesn't play hockey. Like, why would he wrestle? It's like having like a dude's like, I'm a football star. Okay, go play football. Why are you in the ring? What are you doing here? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, I understand like the Mountie, you were like an answer to the big boss man. Like it's another like form of authority. But like when you bring out like the Goon, you're like, why aren't you just playing hockey?
Right.
What are you doing in the ring? I never understood.
I'm the best basketball player there is. Show us your basketball skills. No, I want to be a wrestler.
No. What's my basketball skills? Have you seen my vertical suplex? It's a standing one. It's pretty fucking great. I don't know. I can't shoot a three throw at all. It's great, but my elbow drop pretty fucking solid. And then it was into that, like it was like right after the Attitude, I got one of my favorite wrestlers was IRS. Mm-hmm. And I liked it because like even now as I've gotten older, I think IRS is like a definitive heel. And in the way that like when I think about like what you want to be as a heel is it's like, yeah, you want people to hate you, but like I also love the idea of like not only being hated, but also something no one can support. Right. Like nobody likes the IRS. There's not one person who's like, IRS, yeah, take my money, you fucking son of a bitch. It's more like, fuck you, dude. Like, I know what you represent.
You've done nothing to get this money, and somehow you're taking it.
Somehow you are coming into my house. One of the best promos, oh my God, it sticks out in my head. He was like cutting a promo. I can't remember who he was wrestling, but it's just him in a graveyard. And you just see dirt coming out of like a grave. And then he gets out of the grave and there's like a casket. He's like, just because you're dead doesn't mean you don't have to pay your taxes. And then he hits the casket and it opens and he's like, you're audited. And I'm like, yes. I was like, that is the best, dude. I was like, that fucking rules. That is awesome. And I remember that it was like watching, into the 90s. And I remember being one thing that changed was the Attitude Era. You started seeing guys, with the exception of when the Ultimate Warrior was wrestling, Ultimate Warrior kind of like sparked this change into like what wrestlers looked like physically.
Right.
Like, I think Austin was one of the last dudes that I ever saw wrestle that wasn't like cut, like wasn't like a fucking like The Rock, even The Rock when he started out. If you look at The Rock now compared to when he was in the Nation of Domination, it's like, what the fuck happened here, dude? Like, what happened here?
He was softer. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I think a lot of people, which is like and again, not discrediting anybody or any gender, but like when women talk about like, oh, I had body dysmorphia because I would see supermodels and like, I can't live up to that standard. So I started thinking I've got to do something to like project something that I want. When you're a boy in the 90s and you love wrestling and you're watching wrestling and you're seeing these fucking like brick shithouse dudes, and you're like, that's what a dude is. Like, that's what a guy is. And then you realize you're never going to be 6 foot anything. And you're never going to be like cut out of fucking marble. Like, and you're just like, man, I'm not going to be anything like that. And I think that's when the shift of why people grow out of like watching wrestling. Cause they're like, oh, I don't want to watch that anymore. This is a complete and total fantasy. This is a complete and total farce. I don't want anything to do with that. And right as I was going through that transition of me being like, why would I fucking watch this anymore? This is like, I don't even get it. And half the personas don't make any sense. And I don't care anymore. That's when ECW showed up on public access channel 48
GTW serving Burlington and Philadelphia. Yeah.
It's best. Yeah. So I remember like I was like in the middle of like getting out of fucking like WWF and I was still watch it. I would not watch it, but I was just like, this is dumb. But like the first time I remember I got grounded and I was in my room and I had this really shitty black and white TV. It must have been like a 15-inch TV. And it like had rabbit ears, and GTW was one of the only stations that picked up that like I could see clear as a bell. And like ECW came on. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, didn't even know. I'm like, what the fuck is this crap? And then that's when I watched Chris Benoit break Sabu's neck. Like,
do you know what was weird about ECW? I think ECW did almost what like I'm not a sports fan, but almost did what some like Philly pride came out of ECW.
Oh God, yeah.
Like we're there. This is like that hit us. I know that like me and my friends would feel that way.
Oh yeah, God yeah. I think that was another thing too. Is like, again, when you're watching like the WWF and you're seeing these fucking like that look like the people who literally look like action figures, like they look like He-Man action figures, and you're like, I'm never going to be that. Why would I fucking watch it? And then you have the Sandman show up and you're like, that looks like my Uncle Jeff. I could easily do this.
Right.
Like your rejuvenation of being like, I could be a professional wrestler. How do I know that? I just watched a guy who was drunk fall off a ladder onto another guy who could have easily been unconscious. And that is like, oh fuck. And then they're bringing in like aspects of wrestling you never, and I'm not saying barbed wire matches didn't exist. I'm just saying I didn't know they existed until I watched them in ECW. Well, like, I never knew about FMW or anything like that. I never knew about Japanese death wrestling until later on.
They were using also the presentation of ECW. They were using music that they weren't licensing.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to do
stuff.
Dude,
like
that was the other thing. That's why I loved Rob Van Dam coming out to Walk by Pantera was like, dude, that was just like like such a goddamn an amazing event. You're like, fuck yeah, dude. And that whole bingo hall was losing its mind. And the craziest part is like that bingo hall can hold what? Like I don't even know how many fucking people. Not anywhere as much as
like
the fucking
1,300 people.
Yeah, 1,300. It's not anywhere that like the fucking like the FU Center could hold at the time, or like any other arena.
Right.
And you would hear it and you'd be like, I just watched Monday Night Raw sell out in Minneapolis 2 days ago. And this bingo hall is more on fire than this entire fucking like this entire arena. And it's because the level of like, I mean, again, when you said like Philly Pride, like, yeah, I remember also thinking, it's like, dude, not only is this something that now I think I could still do, it's also not that far from me. Like, it's it's like right there. Like, I can do this. All I'd have to do is like apply myself. And I did. And if you think for 1 second I didn't start backyard wrestling, like, and actually trying to make like a name for myself in the backyard wrestling circuit, whichever may be. And keep in mind, I also thought it was really funny that like the commercials for ECW, they would like advertise the backyard wrestling.
The backyard wrestling.
You're like, it's like clearly
the audience who's watching that shit.
Clearly, like, hey kids, don't try this at home, but do this. Totally do it.
Watch these nerds try it at home. Not you, but
not you, but this fucking idiot. It's pretty good. It's like, you're like, hell yeah, dude. And then they show Tylene Buck showing her tits off. You're like, this clearly makes sense. It's like the thing that like speaks to you on such a weird, dumb, horny 14-year-old level. You're like, yeah, dude, I can totally be a wrestler now. Like, so I got it.
You started backyarding in
oh yeah.
14?
Oh yeah. God yeah. And I remember being like, I wanted, because there was like a lot of kids who they would wrestle with you, but they weren't like taking it as seriously as you were. Like, you were like, we got to do this move. He's like, I can't do that. Like, there was one guy, I was like, yeah, come on. I'll just like, there were certain times I remember I would do like a move to somebody. I'm like, I'm going to paralyze this guy, like accidentally, because he's not like he's not jumping with me. He's not moving with me. And that was another thing, is like, you find out at an early age whether or not you know how to fall right. You find out at an early age you know how to sell something right. And I'm not saying that you can't learn how to wrestle, but I also do think there is a natural ability to just either go with something or do something that some people just don't have. Being physically awkward doesn't help you unless you're like the great Khali and you're 7 fucking foot, and it doesn't matter how wildly unathletic you are. You just look crazy.
Right. It's the part that he's playing.
Exactly. It's like, I would never say Yokozuna was wildly athletic.
Oh, he was.
Like,
he was incredibly athletic.
I see. I don't ever remember seeing him or do anything where you're like, whoa, that's
he
like,
did. If you watch, they have a new documentary on the WWE network that shows, that's like, it's the story of Yokozuna, and it like some of the stuff he was doing in the ring, the way he was moving for somebody his size, it was incredible.
I mean, the only other two people that I saw that would move where I was like, wow, I've never seen anybody that big do, was Bam Bam Bigelow, of course. And also Vader. Vader would do shit that I was like, that guy is gigantic. Like, he's a gigantic man. He's doing a moonsault. And I'm like, that's got to hurt him. Like, no, like, it's like, because the moonsaults he would do, they would land with like their just top of their chest on the guy, and then like the rest of their fucking body would just flop on the mat. And like, yeah, that looked terrible. Like, but that was great that they could do it. But as far as like backyard wrestling that I was doing, I only had like a few friends who were like really all about it, and like were into like, you know, I mean, jumping off of high things onto other things and like really making a spectacle about it. And then it was like, we would videotape it and we try to sell it and whatever, and nobody gave a fuck. And I think we had the cops called on us a couple times because people thought we were actually like fight, like just a crazy bar fight in my backyard. Like, oh, they have a trampoline there. You better get over there. I don't know what these boys are doing. One guy wrapped himself in barbed wire. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on here. It's like, yeah, I did. And I don't care. It's, you just try not to get your mom too upset and not get too horrifically maimed.
But around that same time, just to contrast to what you were saying, around that exact same time, like it was the Attitude Era, 98 was when I found wrestling for the first time. There was a Me and my friend Scott, he found this article in the Bucks County Courier Times about a pro wrestling school that was in Bristol, PA.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, we have to go. It was kids our age that were going there. And like they were in the article, there were kids our age. And we were like, we've got to go. So basically we found out it was like, we didn't find out until later, but it was kind of like glorified backyard wrestling. It was like some rejects from the Monster Factory built a ring in like an auto garage and like charge kids' parents $30 a month to come take bumps. And they didn't teach us anything. They just,
of course not. No.
They were just like, hey, you guys can come here from Monday through Friday and just bump around, do whatever you want. And then every other Saturday, we're going to have a show and you got to charge your parents $15 per ticket. And if whoever sells the most tickets wins their match.
That makes perfect sense, though. That's like a
great business model.
Great. It's like, yeah, I mean, your parents still have to buy tickets. Like, they're not getting in for free. That's not happening.
Not only paying for you to go here, but now they have to pay to come watch you do it.
It shows how much your parents really love you. I don't know. How much do they really support you? I think that's a good question.
Do they want to see you win or do they want to see you lose?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to call anybody in here a loser, but one of you is going to be. That's all I'm going to say.
But like
one of you.
We didn't learn anything really. I mean, except for like learning how to bump and hit the ropes and things like that. And then like that place shut down. And then a couple of my friends went to the CCW school. So I just followed them. So I mean, that was like when I was 16, I was 15. I went to the CCW school and I was 16. I think I tried out for the first time when I was 15, but I was poor and I couldn't afford the school. So I had to get a job.
I think that was also another thing that I mean, looking back on it, if I ever could do anything over again, I think if I could go back to high school for my junior or senior year, I would, and I would like just pay this much more attention. I was so checked out, like completely, that my senior project where you have to like, we had this class called career exploration. So basically what you did is you had to have like, you had to write like a 20 something page paper, and you had to have a video presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, and then like you had to give a whole oral presentation to the class about whatever career you were like, career path you were going. And of course I picked pro fucking wrestling. And of course I make a fucking ridiculous backyard wrestling tape. And of course, later that day, I go home from school and my mom's on the phone with the teacher who is like losing it. And like my mom like hangs up. She's like, Brian, you need to come in here right now. I was like, what? She's like, so I just got off the phone with Deborah Conrad. I'm like, oh, what did Miss Conrad want? She's like, well, she's very concerned about your health and well-being. And my friend Sean, who was in the movie, he actually went to a private school. So she didn't even know who that kid was. She's like, and another boy, I had no idea who it was, but they were throwing each other off a shed. There was a table involved. At one point in time, Ryan was swinging a golf club. I don't know what's going on. Like, it was fucking ridiculous. And I got suspended for 10 days because of it.
Dude, right. There were kids like dying of that stuff.
Oh, yeah. I am very aware, but I was like, Mom, we're in control. Okay, you're not.
We're self-trained. We don't need.
I wouldn't put anybody's life on the line. That's something I wasn't going to do myself, Mom. Now you calm down right now. I got to go back in the basement and make chicken wire barbed wire because you wouldn't let me buy the real thing. I'll be out. Goddamn! Stop getting in the way of my dreams, Mom.
So you did that back, but then how did that wind up going into the awful stuff?
So that was, I mean, I backyard wrestled until, I graduated high school. I think I did maybe like one or two more things like the summer of graduating high school. And then like nothing ever came of it. Nothing ever happened. And no, it didn't. I went to fucking community college for fine art. And I never even thought about doing stand-up until I was 25 or 26. And my buddy Sean, the guy who I did the video with, he went to Temple for film school, and I was always help him write like sketches or like scripts or shorts or anything like that, and just pump him up like comedically. And then I think I was around like maybe 27 or 8. And he was like, do you ever think about like just going on stage and like just saying some of the funny shit that you wrote? And I was like, yeah, maybe I would. And then I did. And from there on, that was a wrap. And that's all I wanted to do was stand up. And I never thought more about it. And it wasn't until, when did I start doing the awful wrestling? I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I was approached by a buddy of mine named Dan Ostrov. I don't know if you've ever met Dan.
No, I don't think so.
Dan had been doing a character in awful wrestling called The Real American. And he approached me. He's like, hey man, I know you, like, we had talked about wrestling before and how much I liked it and how much, like, I mean, I used to go to a lot of concerts and like, I didn't have a physical outlet anymore. I was like older. I wasn't going. I didn't have time to do it. And then he approached me. He's like, hey man, I do this like thing where it's like, it's wrestling, but it's not wrestling. And it's a lot like, it's really character like based and everything's.
You can't be adult backyard wrestling. Exactly. That's the way I looked at it. Like yeah. I think Dorian was telling me about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right.
It was one of those things where like, I didn't know enough about it like at all. And I think I watched one YouTube thing and I was like, what the fuck am I watching? Just like, what is
12
this?
by 12 ring or something?
Yeah. I was like, this is ridiculous. But I didn't care. I was like, oh, I was like, well, I guess I can do it. He's like, yeah. He's like, the guy who was supposed to wrestle me didn't want to wrestle me, or like he couldn't. He's like, but no one that I want to wrestle will like actually take any bumps. Like no one wants to get slammed. Nobody wants to jump off. Like you go to the turnbuckle. Nobody wants to do any of that. And I was like, oh, that's a waste of a ring, quite frankly. I was like, why would you not do that? So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll definitely do it. And he's like, okay, so what do you want to do? I was like, well, look, I'm only going to do it on 2 conditions. And like, I was like strong arming, like I had any fucking pool. I was like, only 2 conditions and they are non-negotiable.
Contract negotiations.
They're not negotiable. If I don't get them, I walk, dude, and you never see me ever. Like what the fuck? Like I had no pool. I didn't even give a shit. It was like, what am I doing? So I was like, all right, I got to be a heel. Like I'm going to be a bad guy. There's no questions about it. And 2, I have to be able to make up my own persona. Like I didn't know that other people in Awful did. I thought like they wrote a storyline like, oh, we need somebody to be this guy. You can be this guy. Or like, we need somebody this guy. You can be that guy. He's like, oh no, yeah. Like we all make up our own things and we kind of write around them. I was like, great. And like, yeah, be a heel. We don't have a lot of heels. And I was like, okay, cool. So I like went home. We were drinking at a bar. I went home and I started thinking about it. And the one idea I had for a heel was like, basically I would just dress pretty normal. And I would go into the middle of the ring and I'd be like, hi, everybody. My name is Dave Sheldon. I'm glad to be here. I just want to let everyone know I'm required by law to let everyone know that anybody under the age of 18 needs to stay 500 feet away from me at all times. Not a bad guy. I think a lot of people get a bad rap. I will also say is that I didn't know the school district or the school area in the premises was that big. I think what I was doing was fully in my legal right. Like basically I was a sex offender, but I was like trying to be as nice as I possibly could.
Justify.
Yeah.
Like bending over backwards to justify being a sexual predator.
Kind of like the age of consent differs in different states. And I don't understand why this applies to me. But then I was like, yeah, it's kind of fucking stupid. But then again, I wanted to be.
People would want to see get their ass kicked though.
Yeah, exactly. But then I also didn't want to be like, I didn't want that to like, that just seemed like there was nowhere to go with that. And then I was like, I wanted to be something very, not like I said before, like the IRS. Like IRS was great because everyone hated them. And if you were a fan of it, it was like weird because you're like, I don't even like the IRS. Like I wanted to be a persona that no one would get behind. So I decided that I was going to be a veterinarian that only puts animals down. Like, that's all I do. I don't do anything else, like, at all.
Okay.
And let me tell you something, man. Like, if I've learned anything about movies or like even like the like serial killer docs, like you could kill 1 million people and there could still be a documentary about you where some lady's like, oh, even Richard Ramirez, who fucked a kid in the ass and then murdered his mom. He was still getting like pictures of hot chicks like, hey boy, what's up? I'm down with you. You know who wasn't getting any? Like, if I went on a tirade of just beating dogs in the heads with hammers, no one would want to, like, I'm not getting any pics in the mail. I'm not getting any hot chicks. Everyone loves animals no matter what the fuck they are. So I told Dan that that's the persona I wanted to be. He's like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. He's like, yeah, we'll definitely do that. But I was like, I want to do something fucking nuts that, like, I don't know how many times I'm going to do this, but if I do it one time, I want it to be one time where everyone's going to be like, did you fucking see that shit that guy fucking did? So I told him, and this is where, again, the guy who ran this organization, where he and I started having static, which is understandable. I got to the Philomoka. That's where we were doing it the one night. And I was telling Dan my idea. I was like, how about this, dude? You come out, you talk about how hard it is being a wrestler and how hard it is being on the road, because you have to leave, like, you know, your wife and your kids, but you also got to leave like your best friend, like man's best friend, his dog Cody. It's like, I gotta leave my dog. And then on the screen, because there was like a big, like, you know, projection screen, like there would be a dog in a kennel, like a picture of a dog in a kennel, which everyone would be like, oh, like, you know, just how they would always react. And then I was like, dude, how about like this? I come out and I tell you that I actually own that kennel that you put your dog in. And not only are you fighting for your life, but for the life of your dog. And if you lose, I'm going to have your dog euthanized via Skype in front of everyone here tonight. So that got everybody pissed the fuck off.
Right. That's some heat, man.
Oh, but no, it gets way worse. So then I was like, I can't, like, what am I going to do if I like I won't be able, like, how am I going to inject the dog? Like, I didn't prepare anything. And then I started thinking, like, literally that night. And what was crazy is that myself, Dan, and this guy named Eric, who was like in charge of Philomoka, we were the only 3 people who knew what was going to happen at the end of this match. Everybody else there had no idea. So Dan ends up winning. And after he pins me, he's like showboating and gloating. And then I come up from behind him and I put him in a sleeper hold. And then, like, I wake him up and I tell him to, like, look at the screen. I was like, we're going to put that dog down anyway. I was like, I don't give a shit. Put that fucking dog down right now. And then all of a sudden, over the intercom, like over a God mic, somebody's like, oh, the dog got out of the kennel. Like, the dog got out of the kennel. I was like, fuck that. You send Unit 23 out to find that dog right now. So then it jumps from the picture of the dog in a fucking cage to a dash cam, just driving down the street. And I'm like, you find that fucking dog. Unit 27, find that fucking dog. And then out of the corner walks this fucking golden retriever, and the fucking truck just hits it. And it flies off screen. And what I like, and everyone in the crowd is just like booing and losing it. And like, that was also the point of like the vet, is that like, I think the vet has only won 1 match in his whole time of wrestling there. But the point is, like, not even you winning against the vet means the vet loses. He doesn't care if he wins or loses. He's there to make everyone feel terrible. He's there to destroy everything you love, even if that means losing a match. He doesn't care about his wins. He doesn't care about his losses. He's diabolical, and he'll fucking do whatever he has to destroy your world. And that's what makes the vet a great heel. And that's why I wanted everyone to hate him. And the crazy thing was, that was like one of the first times that like Awful Wrestling got hate mail because the only 3 people in that whole place knew that a dog was good. Like, the 75 people who paid to be there had no idea they were going to let the dog die that way. And that was the best part. That I remember going to the green room and laughing my ass off about like that whole situation. And then
so how did you film that? How did you film?
How did I film that?
Yes.
I literally went on YouTube and typed in dog getting hit by car. And the first thing was dog getting hit by car on dash cam. Was like, just load that into the computer. And as soon as and that's where.
Okay.
Then the other thing that got the vet in a lot of trouble was because the vet's like straight edge. He doesn't drink and he doesn't smoke. He doesn't even fuck. He just is. And he doesn't care whether you're a guy or a girl. He'll wrestle anyone. And so when I had to wrestle Laura Lean, which was Dan's, the real American sister that he has sexual tension with the whole time, I wrestled her. And I remember the chick that I was wrestling, her name is Rachel. She was great because she didn't mind getting slammed. She didn't mind taking a bump. She didn't mind any of it. And she was like, get as physical as you want. I'm like, don't tell me that because I will. And we had wouldn't be described as a wrestling match as much as it just looked like domestic abuse. It was just me throwing her around and like just really selling over the top punches. And she was so good. She was so good. So then she ended up winning the match. Like she ended up pinning me, but the ref was distracted. So when I like finally got out, she was like talking to the ref, and then I pinned her, which none of the women there liked anyway, because I won. But then after I had pinned her, I got over top of her. And again, the only people who knew about this was she and I. We didn't tell anyone else. So no one knew what the fuck was going on. I got over top of her and then I like kneeled over and then I started strangling her while she was already like beaten. And I sold that for a good maybe like 3 minutes straight until she went limp. And then like everyone in the crowd was like silent and I was still selling it. And then they had like people come in the ring and try and pull me off her. I was like throwing them away. And then she was taken away like unconscious. And then we got more hate mail for that too. And that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted the vet to be so despicable that everyone was like, I don't even want this guy around anymore. It's like, but I'll keep coming back. There's no way I won't. Like you can hate me as much as you want, but I'm never going to die. And that was really great. And weirdly enough, because of that, and keep in mind, every promo I've done has been wildly, wildly asocial and psychopathic. At one of the promos I did, I actually like beat a dog to death with a hammer and blood is spraying up on my face as I'm like swinging. And then I'm talking about the date that we're going to do at Philomoka. As weird and as ridiculous as the vet was, I got 2 dates out of being the vet. And I'm not kidding. And it wasn't even after the show. I went to a bar a month later and I'm sitting at the bar. I'm talking to the bartender. I knew him. And then this chick taps me on the shoulder. And I was like, hi. She's like, you're the vet, right? I was like, yeah. Yeah. She's like, I saw you at Philomoka. It was amazing. When you had that dog hit by a car, that was insane. I was like, all right. She's like, what are you doing later? I was like, fuck yeah, dude. It's like, it doesn't matter. People are fucking sick weirdos, no matter. And it's better when you find them. They're the best.
So I was talking about it. We were talking earlier about how like back in the day, there was like the occupation gimmicks. Like there was wrestlers who were wrestlers who were their career was they were wrestlers and then they were playing the character of some average Joe like job.
What was it? Something Yankum, the DDS guy, the guy who's
that was Kane. Yeah.
That's awesome. Like that's nobody likes the dentist. It's an easy thing to be like, fuck that. I'm not doing that.
So it's like I think that wrestling went kind of upside down in that way. Like, now it seems like people are paid to be wrestlers and they're playing wrestlers.
Of course.
As far as like back in the day, it was like wrestlers playing other things.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why I don't know if I enjoy wrestling now as much as I used to. Like everyone like now, like like Roman Reigns doesn't have like a persona. He's just Roman Reigns, you know.
Well,
He's just.
I mean, right now he's doing awesome. I mean, have you watched
I
like
haven't watched
since his heel stuff? Yeah, since they turned him heel,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's amazing. Like he doesn't wear the vest anymore, and he has Paul Heyman managing him, and he does this whole thing like I earn more money than anybody else in my family, and I take care of my family. I sit at the head of the table, and he's got like Jey Uso's like his lackey now and does whatever he makes him do because he's the head of the table. It's neat. I like it. But
All right.
just check out some Roman Reigns on SmackDown.
Dude, I like, it's one of those things where I never think about it until somebody brings up, I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, there's still wrestling. I know there is, because I mean my roommate watches it a lot. He watched the Royal Rumble like 2 weeks ago. So it's like he was talking about it. I'm like, I don't know who half these fucking dudes are. Like, I don't know. Like, if you don't watch wrestling for like 5 years and then you go back into wrestling, there's like still some guys you recognize, but everyone else, you're like, who are these fucking dudes?
Yeah.
Where are these fucking dudes come?
We did so the you were talking earlier about how like you watched a lot of wrestling back in like the early 90s.
Yeah.
For me, I didn't really watch it because the same with you, like when you said like I don't really pay attention, like I didn't pay attention to like what time of the day it was or what day of the week was. I didn't know how to read a clock. I didn't know, like I that shit didn't bother me. Like I didn't pay attention and I didn't care. Like my vision was bad, so I couldn't see a clock. I didn't wear my glasses all the time because they were always broken or lost. So
That'll happen.
What's that?
That'll happen.
Yeah.
That'll happen.
I was an hyperactive little boy, and I was breaking my glasses all the time. And my mom couldn't afford to buy me new glasses all the time.
My mom would buy. I think one time we went to an optometrist, and then they said something about me and my younger brother being like, we were farsighted, we weren't nearsighted, and we got like glasses. Those glasses, I think I wore them maybe 2 hours, and then I've never seen them again. I have no idea where they were. And my mom was like, where are your glasses at? I'm like, oh, they're upstairs. I lied. I was like, yeah, I use them when I read for school. And like, I have no idea where they went. It was the same with watches. She would buy us watches because we were always late all the time. She's like, here's a watch. She would just buy us nice stuff. I'd go to the woods and that was gone. Like I just hit it on a tree and it'd be broken, or like I'd take it off like, hey, I'm not going to wreck this one. And then I'd leave it somewhere and I'd be like, I don't know what the fuck happened to it. And it was just like, it's just, you're wasting money on children. Never buy a kid a watch. What are you fucking talking about? Never buy a kid jewelry. Are you insane? Don't buy a dumb boy nice things. They can't have them. They can't have them.
Do you ever want kids in your life? Did you?
I mean, there was a time where I thought, there was a time where I thought I'm surprised I haven't accidentally had a kid by now. I mean, I also, if like in a couple of years, somebody approaches me and they're like, hey, I just want to let you know, this is your son. He's 5. I wouldn't be like, that's not my kid. I'd be like, let's get a test and figure it out. I wouldn't immediately be like, no way. I'd be like, yeah, that's a possibility.
I think I've done that. I've done that math too. I've tried to do that math in my head when I go like, all right, I know most of the people that I haven't had many one night stands or any like fling. I didn't have a lot of flings. It's not really a thing. I've done a lot in my life, but I'm thinking like, if one of them does come back at this point, a kid would already be angry at me because they lived probably 15 years without a dad.
Yeah, it's a real motherfucker to think. But right. I think in my whole life, I think I was like maybe like about to marry someone like 3 times. I think I had 3 girlfriends where I'm like, oh, I'm going to marry this person. Like in my head, I'm like, this is who I'm going to be with. And I think those 3 chicks, I guess thought, I'm like, yeah, eventually we'll get married and we'll have kids. But it was also one of those things where, you know, you really start thinking about who you are as a person and how irresponsible you are as an adult. And
ill-equipped, how ill-equipped you probably are to raise a person.
To raise another life. This isn't like, I think I would be doing a detriment. When I see people who have like 5 kids and they're like younger than me, in my head, I'm like, what crazy, like so secure thing do you have in your life where you're not worried about, like, I would be
you arrogant dick.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this?
Right.
What is this? Where's all this money coming from? You have 5 of these fucking things?
Right.
One is crazy.
Watches and glasses. Not only that, now shit's more expensive. They want a phone and they want an iPad.
Dude, I had a cat and that was too much at one point in time. I remember I was like, as long as I can feed my cat, that'll be good. I remember I wouldn't eat, but I'm like, as long as that thing's fucking eating. And I'm like, part of me is like, why would I have a kid? That's just a crazy thing.
Yeah, it's like very weird justification.
Yeah, it's like I wouldn't do that. It's like my cat, as much as I loved him, and like he was a cat, you know, he was dumb. He didn't know how daddy was struggling. I didn't like, he didn't understand if I got drunk and yelled. He was just like, get out of here. I'm not dealing with you. I'm like, you're right. But like, I wouldn't want to put a kid through that type of fucking thing. That's
right.
It's a crazy thing to do. I think I am being more responsible by not having a child than having one, just on a whim, you know, being like, you know what I need right now? A baby. That'll make everything fucking great. I don't think why people do that to me, or not to me, to me still.
Yeah,
people like, our relationship isn't doing well. Let's have a kid. And I still have no idea. Like, that doesn't always fix the situation. In fact, that'll probably make things worse.
Another part of it is like my little sister is 11 years younger than me.
Jesus.
So I already did the changing diapers thing. I already did and she is such a great person. She's grown into such a great person that I wouldn't want to like have the kid not measure up to how great of a person my sister is.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I've never had a problem with kids. I like kids. Kids seem to like me. I used to babysit a lot, like in my 20s. I never had a problem with children or hanging out. I think it was more like, I don't know. I don't care, like, as much as I mean, it's weird. Like, if somebody I babysit like is disappointed in me, I'm like, oh, that's a temporary thing. Like, if your child is disappointed in you, that's gotta hurt so much more.
As a person, they'll think they hate you. They'll say they hate you.
Yeah.
And like, no matter how good you do it, no matter how all the right moves you do, you'll fuck that person up somehow.
Also, another thing I had thought about, I'm like, do I really want to give a child a myriad of future mental problems? Do I really want to do that to like a baby who, like, I already have a lot of problems going on that I know I struggle with, but like, and I don't want to be like hereditarily giving somebody something else in the future. I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. Listen, you think things are crazy right now. 25 is going to show up and you're going to be like, you don't know what the fuck's going on. You're going to get hit by a baseball bat full of depression that you didn't even think existed. It's going to be fucking, it's going to.
Somehow the universe is going to keep coming for your eye too. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It just keeps doing.
I don't know what it is. They're going to try and get this motherfucker real hard. And I don't know why, but they will. They'll just keep going for it. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to do that. And then the one girl that we were like, you know, we had brought it up. I mean, her parents were like kind of really pushing for us to get married. But even before that, they were pushing for us to have a fucking kid. They're like, you guys should just have a baby. Just have a baby. And I remember she and I talking about it. And like, really, it's just like, part of me was like, why would I have a baby? Like, if I had the means to an end, I think I'd adopt a kid over having a baby. And not just because, like, I just think there's just so many children on the planet that don't have anybody.
Right.
And part of me is like, why would I like just keep repopulating this fucking planet with like, there's too many mouths to feed. why don't I just help feed another person and like raise them right and put them into
You can
opportunity?
avoid the whole like crying and diapers thing and get already past all that stuff.
Yeah. Just get one of those great 8-year-olds that I've been hearing nothing but good things about. You know, those obedient, well-behaved 8-year-olds. You know,
the ungrateful. I mean, great. They're very great.
They're grateful. You know, they're ungrateful. They're so fucking goddamn it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'm cut out for fatherhood. I don't know if I am. But then again, I've also been told by several chicks who are like, you would make such a great dad. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think I'd be rational, but I would also be very reckless.
My mom always tells me that I'd be robbing the world if I like that. What kind of pressure? What kind of pressure? I'd be robbing the
world
if I decided to never have children. Like, oh, thanks, Mom.
What are you talking about?
but it's like, honestly, I love the idea of being a role model in any way. Like, I think I love the idea of like me being a resource that connects you to the fact that maybe like, oh, you didn't think things that way. Maybe like you changed your outlook and you go, well, this man can do it. And he went through these struggles. Maybe it won't be as hard as I thought it was, or this, you know, just another way to like connect resources. I love resources connecting to so one of my friends who lives in this neighborhood, I moved away for a long time and moved back into this neighborhood in like 2011. And he was like, oh, I wrote this script. And I was like, let me read it. Let's make it. And then we made it. And now he's like a filmmaker. And like, this is what he does. So it's like he makes films and he meets people all over the place and he like is connected into it. And I'm like, I love being the thing that connects something to something else, or being a resource.
I can appreciate that. That's great.
So
that's good.
I want all the time. This is the point of me saying that kind of thing was because I wanted to get to the fact that like the reason I want to do this show is because this stuff's on the record. You know what I mean? So on the record, I've had a really pleasant time being able to kind of get to know you a little bit. Like, this is the longest conversation we've ever had. So
it definitely is.
Yeah, so
it definitely is.
So it's been super cool, and I'm looking forward to this being just the beginning. You know what I mean? Yeah, I want to be any resource for you I can. If you just need somebody to talk to, if you need something like judgment-free conversation to pull you down off of an angry place, I would be happy to do that.
I appreciate that, Corey. Yeah, I it really is appreciated. I mean, I think this year for so many people has been very mentally taxing. For some people, it's been so mentally taxing that it has now become physically taxing. I think having people that you can turn to, whether it's like 5 minutes to an hour, as long as you know you have anyone, I think this whole thing has tightened more people together than it has brought people apart, especially when you don't know what's going on and everyone's kind of in the same boat. I think it's shitty as it is. I think this will give people an opportunity to grow with people they never thought they'd ever even reach out to or talk to anyway. I think that gives people more of an opportunity, at least in my mind. I think it does.
Next time we do one of these, it's going to be in person, and I'm looking forward to that.
Fucking tech issues where I fucking lose it.
Dude, two more quick things. I'll send you home with a hot dog and a handshake and right off into the sun. Yes. So since I said this is on the record, this audio, this video is outliving us, right? So what's really cool is, like, I tell this story all the time, but like when I first started doing this show, my mom had told me about these voicemails that her mother and her best friend had left her, and she burnt them onto a CD.
Oh,
so she could listen back to them after they're gone. She said, you know how like when people pass away, you forget what their voice sounds like. I said, I don't want that. I want you to be able to listen to who I am, like the authenticity of my voice, the sincerity of my evolving. So like, it's not just called Evolving with Corey Castle because I host it. It's like, hopefully I'm growing from each one of these conversations.
Of course,
and I'm learning something new from each one of these conversations. So on the record, I also want to let you know that this is a real pleasure, man. I really, really appreciate your time, because how much I always say that effort and time are more precious of a currency than the zeros in your bank account.
Sure. That is, I mean, and I appreciate you taking the time and asking me to be on the show. It was a fun time. I had a good time talking, and I really do appreciate, not only that, I appreciate you didn't ask any stupid questions. You didn't ask any like weird, dumb, like they were genuine questions. They weren't just like vapid and just like, why'd you do this or why'd you do that? I think you did a great job, and I appreciated fielding those questions. I really did. I had a very enjoyable time.
So with that being said, I want to give you the opportunity at this point, considering this is outliving us. Let's say 30 years in the future, someone finds this recording, somebody who already knows you and already loves you unconditionally. What message do you have for 2021 version of Ryan Shaner to go into how they can apply it to their life?
So wait, I'm talking to
audio time travel. You're talking in the future. Yes.
Oh man. Well, the first thing I would say to whoever I love unconditionally out there, I just want to let you know that I do love you. And two, look, just stop whatever you're doing and take a moment to really reflect that, you're one person and you can make a difference, whether it be big or small, but you can do it. I think you should stop putting so much pressure on yourself to be what you think other people see you as, and you should be what you know you are. I think that would be very helpful. The other thing is, stop drinking spiked fucking seltzers. They're the worst fucking thing in the world. I don't know why the fuck we keep making them. And now we have them with fucking antioxidants and vitamins in them. Just start drinking regular booze. Just go back to regular bathtub gin. Stop drinking stuff that everyone's telling you. Just stop. Also, drink more water. Always drink more fucking water, for the love of God.
I've never heard someone have such a stance on spiked seltzer before.
I've fucking had it, dude. I've fucking had it. Can we stop? Didn't we learn anything from Zima? Didn't we learn when we're like, this was fucking stupid, and now why are we doing it again? It's like, what goes around comes around. It's so dumb.
It's very cyclical. Maybe by the time 30 years from now, 20 years from now, it'll have gone away and come back again.
Oh, it definitely will. They'll be like, fuck, seltzer. Like, I told you. I fucking told you. Throw it in the trash.
So I do this thing all the time where, to kind of wrap it up, to take it home, is what I'll do is I'll say, hypothetically, I've given you this show. So this has been the pilot episode of your new podcast, Evolving with Ryan Shaner. And I want you to, in a very Jerry Springer's final thought type of way, wrap it up in a pretty bow, all the lessons that can help you become a more evolved person for tomorrow than you were today. And then after that's over, just to keep it silly, in your best Alf impression, say, "Hey, Willie."
Oh man. All right. So final thought. Again, I don't think people in this world take enough time to really look inside themselves and see exactly who they are. I think we get caught up in what we think we should be, opposed to who we really are. I think it's harder for a lot of people to really, especially for myself. You lie a lot to yourself about what you think you should be or could be, because you think other people are going to want that version of you. Mm-hmm. And the worst part about putting on a mask is eventually you're going to have to get a new one. That mask will break or rip and you'll outgrow it. And you're going to have to put another one on. And then by that time, you don't even know what you look like anymore. By that time, you don't even know what you sound like anymore. I think there's a lot of people who believe in, even right now, this whole ideology of like, I'm just going to stay true to myself. Are you? I think a lot of people need to question, are you staying true to yourself? Are you doing this to benefit you, or are you doing this because you think society is telling you to stay true to yourself? I think it's a very vicious circle. The other thing I would say is, I mean, I know it's hard, but eventually we're going to have to wean ourselves off of like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. People are so bombarded with this, that, and this and that. Again, telling you to be like, be yourself, but be it like this. Be yourself, but do it like this. And it's something we'd have to work very hard to get away from. And I think just taking 5 minutes and throwing your phone in a different direction and just not looking at it can do a day's worth of wonder. I don't think a lot of people do that anymore. Also, call people on the fucking phone more. I would say talk to people more. Stop texting so much and call people you haven't talked to in a while, just to let them know that you still acknowledge them. Having a deeper connection with people now is even more paramount than it was last year. And I think we need to do that more. I think people need to reach out more and talk more.
I do think what you said in regards to like the Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, it's like, I've said this forever, and it applies more with all those outlets. I think we are, as people, very accustomed to reacting to the world happening to us.
Of course.
So this happened, so I had to do this. This happened, so I had to do this. And instead of reacting to everything, maybe just like be a little bit more deliberate about what you create in your life.
Yeah.
And that's it's like we do have like a quick itch for every scratch, you know, or a scratch for every itch. It's maybe if you don't know something, just don't know it. Like don't look it up right away. But if it's driving you crazy later, maybe ask somebody, or maybe look it up, or maybe somebody will have the answer and you'll be like, there you go. That's missing. That's totally missing.
I agree.
Sorry. Go back to your point.
No. I mean, that's basically it. I mean, I would say try and choose meaning over just substance. Try and choose meaning with what you do over just ignorantly putting something out. Think about things before you say them. That's another thing too. I don't think anybody thinks before they talk anymore. I think everything is so quick. You're so quick with your thumbs to say something or do something on your fucking phone. It's like laser guided. And then you didn't think. You just did it. And then, I mean, whether or not you think you're right, you have to like stick to your guns on that. And another thing, if I could tell anybody, just know the internet is forever.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's a fad. It's a fad. It'll go.
Oh, no. No, believe me. I like, do you know how at one point in time I did think the internet was going to be like, we'll get over this. This is fucking stupid. I really did. I was like, look at this fucking crap. You think these chat rooms are going to blow up? Nobody cares. Boy, was I wrong. Should have invested.
So final thought.
That is my final thought. That's my whole final thought.
The whole final thought wraps up in the sum of I should have invested, and then Alf impression.
And what am I saying as Alf?
Hey Willie.
Hey Willie.
That was the best one so far.
I think I like cats. Why can't I eat these cats?
No.
Did they ever show, honestly, I didn't watch Alf that often. Did they ever show him like
actually eat a cat?
Consuming a cat?
I don't think so. I think it always was just like, oh, there's a cat, I'm going to eat it. I think it was, I don't think they actually showed him actually ingest a cat ever.
I think that would be a great episode if like they just go into the kitchen and Alf has blood on his like weird beak and he's like, hey.
Well, I don't think it would bleed. I think he would just swallow it whole.
Oh, wait, what planet was Alf from?
Oh man,
I don't know.
I
just know he's a fucking alien and
alien life form. That was where the name came from.
Man,
is there anything that you would like to ask me or say to me or put over so that like anybody listening who might not have ever heard of you or anything, like where they can catch you or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as plugs go, I mean, you can find me on a YFI podcast. You Fucked It podcast is my podcast. You can check me out on Instagram. It's Shaner Comedy, ShanerCobbedy. And then on Twitter, which I just said both of these things not to go on anymore. Twitter is _Shaner_comedy. And as far as questions for you, what would you say? Have you ever seen the movie The Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you think, just as quickly as you can answer, do you remember when Hannibal Lecter is handcuffed in the cell after they take him to be like questioned from the mail about the mayor, senator's daughter? And then he pulls out the pin in his thumb to pick the lock. There's a part where he is looking at Dr. Chittleman's fucking pen on the bed. And it alludes that he got the pen while he was already in the fucking like dolly.
Okay.
How do you think he got it from the doctor? Because there's also a scene where the doctor's looking for it and he can't find it. And then they zoom in on Lecter's face, like to allude that he did get the pen. How do you think a confined Dr. Lecter got the pen?
Telekinesis.
And that is the best way to wrap this up. There you have it, folks. Dr. Lecter is a possible mutant. It's pretty great. Great.
Everybody listening, just want to make sure I throw this out there. If this is your first time listening to Evolving with Corey Castle, make sure just maybe hit subscribe on YouTube so you get new episodes whenever they post. But if you subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you'll get new episodes every Monday. And I appreciate all the currency of your effort that you've spent. And like I said to Ryan, like if you ever just need a friend or if you just need somebody to talk to, you need some judgment-free conversation. I'm not far from you. I'm not impossible to get a hold of. Absolutely reach out to me. Any feedback's appreciated. I love all the comments. Anything you got to say, I'm here to hear it. So I'm not too big of a deal or anything. So thanks so much for all your time and your effort. And Ryan,
thank you, man. I appreciate it. So good.
Have a great night. Everybody else, be fun, have safe, keep evolving.
All right.